Hello, this video is to show off a few of my Heroclix mods. Heroclix is a game I've been playing a lot in recent months, and before playing it I was playing a lot of Warhammer and games where you painted and modified and assembled your figures. So wanted to continue doing some of that stuff and have started modifying my Heroclix figures. And basically, sometimes I'm cutting them up to change the figures or repainting them. Some of my figures are repaints. This figure here is the new Batman, the one from Target and Walgreens from the Dark Knight Rises set. I'm a fan of the figures they've made for this set as far as what they do, but I'm not a fan of the movies or the look of the figures. So when I got this figure, I realized that this was a perfect place to put the old Hyper Time Batman Unique I had that really wasn't very playable these days in Heroclix. It's not as competitive. So this figure had exploit weakness, a power that ignores defense powers that would prevent damage. So I thought Batman with kryptonite gloves would be a really good figure to put on this dial. So that's basically a figure swap. I just cut off one figure and take another figure and put it on the dial. Now, I've got other figures I've done mods for. This one here was a little bit more complicated. This is Superman from the storyline where he was a gladiator on Mongol's War World planet. So one of my favorite comic storylines. I really wanted a figure of this particular version of Superman, and so it's still basically taking a figure, and this time it's repainting it. And I also reposed the arm. This was a Hercules figure from Marvel's Avengers. And in fact, I also left him on the Hercules dial as Superman in that storyline was kind of depowered and really couldn't fly too much after having been away from a yellow sun for a while. So Hercules seemed like a pretty good representation of a depowered Superman. The only thing he's really missing is a ranged attack, as Superman does use his heat vision a couple times in that storyline. But I thought that was a pretty good representation for the figure I wanted him to play as. So next up, this is actually a Hulk fig I made, where this actually is a toy from the Handful of Heroes line. And then I painted him up. He came actually in clear green plastic. So that's just a kind of a quick paint job, and then of course swapping it onto the Hulk dial. It's much more impressive in size than the figure that was on this particular Hulk dial. So some of the figures I've been playing around with an idea because I started doing this, and I realized that sometimes there was a dial that I'd like different figures on, or maybe I'd like to take a mod and move it to another dial sometime, because I really put a little bit of work into these mods. So I've been playing around with this technique of putting magnets on the dial and then putting the figure on a washer. So now I can put here, this is the old Hyper Time figure for the Key, one of my favorite Justice League villains from the Grant Morrison arcs. And I can put him on the leader dial, which pretty well represents what the type of stuff that the Key would do. It also represents fairly well what Desaad of Apocalypse could do. So now I can use that dial for either of these figs, and both figures were ones that had pretty horrible dials from Hyper Time and now actually would be playable. So Using that same technique, I've also put this particular mod on the dial. This is the Eradicator, as he was in his early appearances. You can actually see the comic of his early appearance. In another one of my videos, I reviewed the Superman comics that he was in recently. So, the Eradicator's got a good dial. I may want to use it again, or I might want to put this Eradicator on a different figure. Maybe another figure will come along that would represent nicely the Eradicator as well. So the magnet system gives me that option. Now, one of the big things I've been wanting to do lately is make mods of the different Green Lanterns. So I've started doing that to represent some of the lesser known Green Lanterns. This one being probably one of the more obscure Green Lanterns out there. Also one of my favorites, Jack T. Chance. The Green Lantern they refer to as the baddest Green Lantern of them all. Now, Jack T. Chance doesn't wear a Green Lantern uniform. He would prefer to wear his trench coat, so he just wears a little bit of a little badge on his coat that shows that he's with the Green Lanterns. And he's the only Green Lantern you'll see carrying a gun. He does that just in case the ring fails. So, I also have recently modded, this is Princess Iolanda, another Green Lantern from the current Green Lantern Corps comics. So I want to actually start modding up a bunch of different Green Lantern, lesser known Green Lanterns, so that when I field a whole bunch of Green Lanterns, I could field more of a core with more alien figures in it than they've actually made. So this one I put on the Hal Jordan from the Fast Forces dial. This one is on Kilowog from Fast Forces, both of which I thought represented pretty well what those characters were like in the comics. So the last mod I'm going to show right now, actually I'll show two more. This is just a quick one. That's Grace Choi of The Outsiders. I actually just did this for a little contest where we were supposed to take a common figure from the Hulk set and repaint it. So I picked Grace Choi here as a She-Hulk. So it's the She-Hulk dial, the She-Hulk figure, just simply repainting her as Grace Choi. And finally, one of my other favorite figures that I've done mod-wise has been Sorel. Sorel was actually a Supergirl for a little while in the Superman comics. She came from the future, claimed and believed that she was Kal-El's daughter with Lois Lane, and that was actually a false memory planted in her mind in the story. You eventually find that out. But she was appearing in Superman comics for about a year or so, and I thought it'd be kind of neat to make a mod of her, as she'd be a very different looking Supergirl. I'm particularly proud of how the cape turned out. I got the shading pretty well, I thought. Not so crazy about how her face turned out. But that's Sorel, Supergirl. So that's all I'm going to show right now, but thought I'd share that with you. Again, modding figs is a lot of fun. If you're into Heroclix, give it a try. Doesn't take a lot to get started. Just some paints, a hobby knife to cut up the figs, some glues to repaint the figs, and obviously be careful with those hobby knives. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to comment. If you have any questions about how I do mods or any thoughts, please comment below.